Hey everyone, welcome to another episode with the Unrealized Purpose podcast. Um, I'm the co-host Isaac Wooden here with Dalton Howell, and
Howdy.
we have a special guest. He's been on our show a few times now, so it's always great to have him back. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody. Yeah, thanks for having me, Isaac and Dalton. My name is Prajesh, and I'm based in New Zealand, and I'm sort of a life coach. Yeah, but I am a life coach, and it's awesome to be on this podcast. I love the name of the podcast because I think it's something that a lot of us don't don't realize that we have a purpose, and unrealized purpose is such a great way to get us to think about that. So, which is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Um, you have a couple podcasts of your own too, right? You kind of just do on the side.
Yeah, I do. I do have a podcast, and it's really interesting because my podcast is called Bosses of Knowledge, and with that, I speak to people from around the world, around the country about their story and how they have navigated where they are from where they've come from. So yeah, and we've got about 75 different guests on there. So if you want to listen, it's Bosses of Knowledge on podcast on Apple on any podcast, Spotify or Apple, wherever you want to find that.
Baskets of Knowledge. That's a good
Yeah,
title.
yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you.
yeah. So the topic of this show, or this episode at least, and something we've been talking about a lot lately is just finding the life's purpose, finding, where to start even. And I think that maybe that's a good direction to go with this episode is like where like searching, where do you start searching? So um yeah, so as far as this episode goes, wanted to talk about, finding purpose in life. So do you have any tips for people when they're just going about trying to find something that's meaningful, or do you have any tips about like where to even start looking, because I feel like it's difficult to find something, to maybe even devote your life to a little bit. It takes some searching.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I'm going to throw the question back to the both of you. And I guess we've got to start with what exactly is purpose? What is purpose? Dalton, what do you think purpose is?
Um, so as for me, words are awesome. But I would define it as a person what they set before himself as an object to be reached, or accomplished. What your aim is, what you're going after would be your purpose per se.
Yeah, beautiful. And Isaac, what do you think? How would you define purpose for you?
I personally, I would define it more towards having a goal, something that you find meaningful, or a problem you're trying to solve. I don't have you've got a very good definition there, Dalton, but I kind of think about life purpose as being something that you work towards and pursue that gives your life a little bit of meaning. It doesn't have to be something big, but you know, something that is bigger than yourself, which doesn't really take a
Yeah.
lot, to be honest.
And it's crazy because I love the reason I asked that question is because for every one of us, there's only three of us here, and purpose can mean three different things to all three of us. So when we try and find a way to find purpose, we've got to first go back to right down to what actually is purpose. And the way I like to define this, purpose is so massive. One way to think about it is how do you find purpose in context? So we're looking for purpose in life, purpose in career, purpose in relationship, purpose in whatever. And I think that's what we got to do. All right, cool. When we're talking to ourselves, are we looking at purpose in a specific context? And then we have different methodologies to do that there. And if we go right purpose in life, and like you said, Isaac, and like you said, Dalton as well, is what is the significance? What is the meaning that you give to life for you at this point in time? And again, the thing for us to remember is as we go through life, our purpose changes. When you're a 6-year-old child, your purpose is, oh, I have a good time, a great time. And when you're a 25-year-old, it's very, very different. However, on saying that there, some humans in this world grow up with a drive towards a purpose, and these are people that normally become pretty amazing legendary people. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, people that are leaders, and we all can't be like that. We all can't be like that. If we are, that's amazing. But as we go through different experiences, it defines on our how we define purpose. You know, we might have a traumatic experience that happens to us, which then changes our purpose that we want to find and help people in that space there. Or we might be religious and we go, right, cool, this is our purpose, is to serve our God, whoever we believe in. Or it might be, hey, my purpose is I actually want to become rich. That's my purpose. That's what I want to do. And you find ways to do that there. So I think that's a good place for us to start at what actually purpose is.
I like that. I like how you said that purpose changes throughout your life as well, because yeah, I mean, your purpose as a teenager is to, is totally different than what it is when you're out of college and, trying to figure out what you want to do in the world. Um, yeah, so I guess any tips or any
Yeah. So
places to
this
look
is
for.
yeah, I think that the best way is always look internally. And when I work with clients, I work with lots of clients who are struggling with purpose. They know what they want to do, but I think if I think about all of us in life, we know what we have to do to be healthy or to be successful or whatever. Those are different purposes or different goals if we look at that there. But then it all comes down to us. And the tool that I like to use is finding out your values. When you find out what your intrinsic values are they aligned with your purpose? Sometimes our purpose is X, Y, Z, but our values are totally misaligned to that there. So we have to then think about our values and realign our values to our purpose or shift the purpose to match our values. And the value proposition, the values that you look for yourself, requires you to actually be really honest and say, okay, these are my values. And it's a process, not just you wake up in the morning, okay, these are my values here. You have to go through a process. And there's lots of coaches out there, a lot of people out there that go through something called the values elicitation process, where you just sit down and just knuckle down what those values are. I think that's a good place for you to find out what your values are and if they align with the purpose, which takes time, And you got to think about those values that, right, cool, what brings me joy, what brings me fulfillment? And again, what are your strengths? What are your skills? And just like you said before, Isaac, it changes. Those things change. So, but sometimes our values don't change. In fact, a lot of times our values don't change. Our core values won't change. The way they present themselves might change, but the core values will stay the same. I'd love your take on
Gotcha.
that there. Yeah, love your take on that there, Dalton or Isaac.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking about that, where you say your core values don't change. So I think maybe, do you feel like there's a big difference between purpose and goals in life? Maybe your core values, or they're in line with your purpose, but then you set goals that go along with your purpose. I'm kind of just trying to put this all together a little bit. Yeah, what you got, Dalton?
I
Just trying
kind
to
of
think
think of
about
it.
this here.
So if I'm understanding correctly, something actually you shared with me was, you wanted to get in shape, you wanted to get a six pack, which every dude does. Um, and so like we set that your purpose is to get a six pack. Your goal is to go to the gym every week. So your goals help you achieve your purpose is kind of the way that I look at it. Is that kind of the same way that you look at it, Prajesh, as goals
100%.
serve your purpose?
100%. So your purpose is your north star. But you have to get those little stars to get to your north star. So okay, cool. Before I can get to my north star, I have to get a rocket to go to this star to the star, and those are your goals. That's a great analogy there, Dalton. But my question for you then is, to Isaac, what is the value to you of having a six pack? What is the value? What does that bring you? Like if you think about your value, so purpose you have is amazing, but the value to you, what does it represent to you?
I kind of view it as a journey of self-development here.
Yeah.
I've been working on my business for so long. I've been working on my mind as much as possible, learning, and um, and then fitness is part of it. It's another aspect. It comes with a lot of bonuses, I feel like, in a
Yeah.
superficial world, it definitely can't hurt you. So
Yeah. It does. And what I love about this is because this is the world we live in. So when we think about values, there's two kinds of values. There's a means value and there's an ends value. The means value is the thing that is getting you to your whatever your goal is, and the end is the value. So for example, I'm just going to break this down for you, Isaac. If we take fitness as a value for you, right? So fitness is a means value. Being fit is getting you to somewhere. Okay. But being fit is not the value, but being healthy is the value. So being fit is the means that is going to get to the end, which is me being healthy. And for you, the healthy is represented by you having a six pack. Okay. So for me, I might want to be healthy, but my means is to run for 10 kilometers. It's not getting a six pack, but the value is being healthy. So the value is the same at the end of the day for us both, but the way we get into it is a very different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. It's a bit like if we take a relationship. If someone says to me, my purpose in my life is to find a relationship. That's great. Find a relationship, cool. That is a means value. That's my purpose. But the value intrinsically is, why do you want to have a relationship? Is because I want to experience love. I want to experience connection. So if you take away love and connection, you don't need to have a relationship really, unless it's superficial. But this is what relationship gives. It gives you the love and the connection and companionship, which are values. So purpose then comes down from that. My purpose is, yes, relationship, but my purpose is actually this here. This is my goal. These are my purposes. A bit like Dalton said, you have the goals to get to your purpose.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's exactly what I was trying to put together when I was stumbling through what you had just said. That makes a lot of sense. So your goals help you get to and achieve your purpose. So
yeah.
I've got a question, and this is something that maybe is a totally different direction, but I know Jordan Peterson talks about nihilism a lot, and that it's hard to come up with an argument against it, because if it's all going to be gone, what's the point?
Yeah.
Do you have an argument or a way to help people when they feel like, well, it's all gonna, what's the point of getting out of bed in the morning and chasing my goal if in 80 years it's not going to matter? Do you have an argument against that, or?
Yeah, I'll let Dalton talk first, and I'll come back with my thoughts. Dalton, what are your thoughts there?
My first thought on that is, one, nihilism is kind of the thought of just, nothingness, nothing really matters. And the way I was raised up is everything matters. Even your smallest decisions matter. And just in that alone, understanding that, and that's something that a lot of times we catch ourselves saying is, oh, this doesn't matter. Oh, it's not important. This, it's just, something that we do. It's not really a big deal. It's like, no, everything matters to some degree. And so, even, it's kind of the discipline of, well, when I was younger, we would be around the church, and they would, I would take care of the lawn, and you would see someone drop a piece of trash. It's like, nah, it's not a big deal, well, it matters, because eventually all those little things, they'll add up, and they'll fill a 55-gallon bag of trash. And so every little thing that you do matters. And I think one of the big things is we don't understand that all our little decisions matter, and they build up into a big problem for us in our life. And so that kind of nihilism of nothingness, nothing matters, it will grow to a point where it's very destructive. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we see, kids, especially, doing things that they're doing today, and school shootings, and whether it's dismembering or trying to commit suicide. It's because they haven't been how do I word this? They haven't been given purpose, or meaning. And so even if I don't think that, and my mind's not working right now. I don't think that nothingness is, I don't believe in it for start. I just put it that way. I believe in God, and I believe that there's a great creator. He created us on a purpose, for a purpose, and we kind of get to discover what that purpose is. And until you've discovered that, you know, you can have all kinds of other things, purposes, meanings, in your life that can get you through to that point. But just three simple things that are purposeful to me in my life is obviously perform God's goals that He gives me, um, support my country, and provide for my family. Those are three simple things. And a lot of times when you're starting out, you don't have two of those things, but you have that first one, and that's your creator. And so I'm kind of rambling here. I'll I'll let you go back until I collect my thoughts, Prajesh.
No, I mean you raise a couple of things that I think are fantastic, and I'm gonna summarize it or talk about how I describe this when people say to me, "Oh, nothing really matters." So there's a story that I like to tell when I do my teaching, and you might have heard of this before, Isaac. So there's a speech, and on the speech there are thousands and thousands and thousands of starfish, thousands. And there's this one young person, and they're on the starfish. They're on the beach here. They grab a starfish and they throw it in the water. Along comes this man here, and he goes to this young person, "Hey, buddy, what are you up to?" And this young person goes, "I'm trying to save the starfish." And the man looks at the young person, and goes, "There's thousands, there's millions here. You're not going to be able to do this here. You're not going to save them." The young boy then picks up the starfish and he throws that one in the ocean and he goes, "I've just saved that one's life." Now, that is the contrary of nihilism because, like you said, Dalton, even one small act has changed life. That one act of throwing that one starfish into the water has saved that one starfish's life. You might not have saved everybody's, but you've saved that one. Each time you do that, you're saving someone else's. The other thing with nihilism, I mean, nihilism, it's super, super complex, but on its basic level, it says there's no objective truth. That's what's basic. There's no objective truth. This is it. This is it. But if we have to believe that, then how do we know that nihilism is actually true? If it says there's no objective truth, then why is nihilism true? That's my argument there. How can that be true? But I think the key thing to remember is that, like Dalton said right at the start, there was when we're born into this world here, every single one of us has an intrinsic purpose. When you are a baby, the first thing that you do is you cry. You don't know why you cry. Then you try and crawl. We have not taught a baby that. No one has taught a baby that. This is innate behavior. And it might not be an academic purpose that you have, but the purpose of survival. When an animal is born, when a plant is born, their innate purpose is to survive, whatever way it is. You know, you hear about those dragonflies or those tiny flies that are only alive for 24 hours in a day, but in those 24 hours, they grow up, they mate, they reproduce, off they go. That's their purpose. You know, I think it becomes pretty crazy when we try and find this greater meaningful purpose when, like you said, Dalton, is you just focus on your particular purpose right now. But what happens, I think, in the world at the moment is we are all expected to have this grandiose purpose here. And if you're not serving this grandiose purpose, then you're not fulfilling your life. But like Dalton said, hey, my purpose is serving God, serving my country, serving my family. That's fine. That's all good. But if we look at the world, if we look at some social media, if we look at the way the media goes, "Oh, that's not enough, Dalton. You're not actually providing to the world. What are you up to? What are you up to?" And I think that's where we start having problems. That's when we go, hey, nihilism. If we take that extreme, goes, actually, there's no purpose to that thing. So I think it's a very complex theory and philosophy, and it does stand true in some cases. But I think if we live our life around that, then if we flip the script and think about Ariana Huffington in her book Thrive, she writes about accepting the fact that death is part of life, and when you accept that death is part of life, you actually start living a lot more. Because every one of us is going to die, right? Everyone's going to die. But what do we do while we're living that makes life worth living for you or for those around you? Don't know if that added any value, but those are my thoughts.
I like I recently found this out. I don't want to say it was last year, but I've been looking into like the Stoics and stuff and just kind of trying to learn about them. And when you said that, flipping the script, it reminded me of like I'm gonna butcher this, but the Latin, I think it's Latin phrase, memento
Yep.
mori.
Memento mori. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's been on my mind a lot, but I mean, that's definitely I feel like a motivator, 100%, to go and live your life. Do you have any thoughts, Dalton?
Memento mori, that's death is what does that mean again in English?
Death, yeah, it's
Memento
like death
mori.
is inevitable or something. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I was thinking. It was death is inevitable.
It's remember. It stands for remember that you will die.
Remember that you will die.
Gotcha. Stands
Yeah.
to remember that you will die. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah, I mean that's a good point. I as you were sitting there talking, Prajesh, I was thinking on, you're right. You're absolutely right. I hear it all the time. It's like, I want to do something fantastic and huge. Um, and kids think, or even adults, everybody, sometimes they have this big head of, well, if I'm not doing it, I have to, it's just I feel like a failure, or maybe they feel like a failure. But I'm recalling a Jordan Peterson interview where he's sitting on like a board, and I think the woman kind of asked him the same question, and he answered in such a simple way. You may not be Jordan Peterson, you may not be sitting at a point to where everybody's listening and everybody's watching you and everybody's listening, but you're sitting in a space where there are people around you and you can affect every single person around you. And he made the simple statement of, how can I make an impact on society? And it's like, well, before you make an impact on society, you need to make an impact on yourself. You need to get yourself figured out. He had it. He said, and I think that starts with cleaning your room and making your bed, which is great advice. Get your own stuff in order before you go on in attacking problems of this world. And so, but I love that thought there, that we don't need to have a big mind on, I need to be big. No, you need to be big around the people that you're around. And so,
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was like, what are there any things that you can do while you're working towards finding your purpose, or finding what your core values are and stuff like that? But yeah, I think you explained that pretty well there, Dalton. Start with working on yourself.
Yeah, and then you start doing that, you start finding your values as well. A lot of us, our values are imprinted on us by other people, or we think we have the values because of our religion, our culturescape, our race, whatever it is. We have these values that are presented on us, and we don't have enough time to actually think for ourselves and step away to go, actually, what is important? What are my actual values that are different to not I don't know if you've read the book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. Let's see that there. It's by Vishen Lakhiani, and in there he talks about the culturescape, and he's reframed this word called culturescape, and how the culturescape just defines, or has defined, how we live our lives based on whatever variable we want. And it's when you break through the culturescape and think about your own self within the culturescape that you actually start finding out who you are. But we're so busy trying to live this life that was perceived to be the way to live life, that we don't have time to do that there. And it's increasingly becoming harder and harder, which is why, when you read books like the Stoics, or you read books from Jay Shetty, or Robin Sharma, and all those people, they step away from the world for a little bit to actually realize themselves. So if you think about, and also a lot of religious leaders have stepped away. They've gone away into silence to actually find themselves. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to go into a cave somewhere and do that there. But even just simple journaling every day, that's you in the moment for yourself. A 5-minute meditation is you by yourself. When you're in the gym, Isaac, when you're in the gym by yourself, if you start thinking about other things, you're going to drop the weight on you. You have to be present at that moment in time. Dalton, you spoke about before when we started that you were involved with your church and the worship of Easter. In that time, you're 100% present in doing that there. if you step away, if you start focusing on other things, that's not going to work for you, right? So, but as you become present in that moment there, you start realizing what your values are. Because if you didn't enjoy that, you wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be there wholeheartedly doing that. You know, when I talk about not enjoying it, I don't mean like, oh, this is not fun. It's about, it might not be enjoyable at the moment there, but you see the bigger purpose, what it brings for you as a person. So for example, Isaac, I'm pretty sure when you go to the gym, it's not like, yeah, hunky dory, skip to the gym, I'm all happy, happy, happy. There'll be days when you're like, oh, this is tough, I don't want to be here. But you go there and then you get through the toughness and then you find you go, right, cool, this is why I'm doing it. Again, that was a bit of a long rant there about purpose and values.
Yeah. I one like I'm always actively trying to be conscious of myself and just being self-aware. And one thing that's helped me is silence. Like my place that I work, it's very loud. Place just like at the gym, it's very loud. So like trying to find those minutes of quiet really it really definitely helps. Like I think Zach Pogrod, he posted about this where he'll just go to the gym and work out with no music. And I tried it and it works. Like you have ideas, you have thoughts, you know, you have those kind of aha moments in those periods of quiet. And there's no excuse really for not finding time to be quiet, I feel like, because there's some time somewhere, even if it's just laying in bed, just kind of asking yourself these questions, like you know, like you had mentioned at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. And I think that's the key thing. Silence can be found anywhere. It can be found. You just have to take time to just do that for yourself.
Yeah, like I catch myself like about to plug in earbuds and I'm like, you know what? No earbuds right now. About to turn on the radio. It's like, no, let's get some quiet in
Yeah.
here. You got to have those
Yeah.
periods of on and off. But I definitely think the periods of quiet were very helpful in answering questions that I have. You know?
Yeah.
What about
And I
you,
think,
Dalton?
and I think it goes back to when we find our purpose, like you said, Dalton, at the start, it's not just about you. Your purpose is, yes, you're helping yourself, but you just once you do that, then you're helping all those around you. You know, there's that saying there, you are the product of the five people around you. And we always forget that you could be one of those five there that are affecting those other people around you. We always think about, oh, who are the five around us? But hey, who are the five that you're actually affecting, as opposed to who's affecting me? That's a different way of looking at it, right? To go, right, cool, hey, who am I affecting? But we always go, who's affecting me? So like you said, Dalton, before, you know, in your space, you go, hey, these are my three things that I really stand for. And those three things that you stand for are affecting your your church community, your family, and those around you. That when we talk about the country, it's about those in your space there. You know, your country is the people around you. You're not affecting 330 million people in America. You're affecting the country that's next to you, those 5 or 10 people.
Right. If I were affecting 330 million people in America, I'd be a millionaire.
Maybe a billionaire. I'll give you a billionaire for that.
Billionaire.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way I kind of look at it as I go throughout my day. You know, everybody wants to be big. Even I want to be big. You know, I want to have an influence, you know, that goes beyond my imagination. That'd be awesome. But right now it's the people around me. And that's the most important, is right where you are, making the biggest difference that you can make, positive, progressing influence that you can make to everyone around you.
Yeah, I like. I think that a big takeaway for people that are looking to find their purpose is just to work on themselves, and the bigger purpose that's outside of yourself will align, and then you'll start to see little goals that'll come about. Like I mean, it literally was like last year that I was like, all right, I'm gonna get in shape, and I started working on that every week. Hired a trainer. I took the necessary steps. I'm working on myself. Like I feel like I'm still early on in this self-development journey. Like I'm trying to be better. but it's a journey, you know. That's why a lot of these questions I'm asking are straight up just curiosity questions. Like, it's a journey. I may have like close to 20,000, 90,000 followers on social media, and I talk about self-development all the time, but I'm still trying to learn. And I'm just working on myself. And I like how you put that, Prajesh and Dalton.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for all our listeners out there that are listening, that there is no end point. You know, when you listen to Jordan Peterson, or you listen to whoever you listen to, whoever your people are, they're all going through their journey as well. You know, I really enjoyed because of Jordan Peterson, I enjoyed his podcast with Joe Rogan and how he spoke about it. He's still going through this, you know, his journey hasn't stopped and it keeps changing. And everything might look hunky dory on the outside, but actually internally, everyone is fighting their own little battles along the way. And we don't see that, right? We just see, oh, this is, you know, Elon Musk. We see Elon Musk. We see all these great thought leaders out there, and we just see a snippet of their life. We don't actually the battle they're going through. And I'm gonna come back to your initial question, Isaac. And I think we've gone through this in today's podcast. We spoke about how do you find your purpose. I think these are the 5 things I reckon people should be doing to try and find their purpose. And there's no right or wrong answer here. So number 1 is reflect on your values. That was the first thing I said. Once you realize your values, that's going to start helping you decide your direction. Number 2 is identify your passions and interests, because every one of us has got passions or interests. And like you said, Isaac, a year ago, you decided that, hey, my passion was to get fit. Boom, off you go. Number 3, determine your skills and strengths. Again, each one of us has got skills and strengths, but unless you realize your values and passions, you're not going to be able to do that there, right? And number 4, find inspiration. You know, we're not the first people to live in the world. There's been generations of people before us, and people have done things along the way. And yes, they might not agree with them, but you know, I think there was a quote somewhere that said, "Good artists paint, great artists copy, and they modify." And I was like, oh, that really, really resonates, because you know, it's a bit like the stuff that we produce. I was like, you know, we follow a template that others have used as well, and we just modify a little bit to say, right, cool, this worked in the past, let's try it again. And if it doesn't work, we don't use that there. So we find inspiration around people that we think, or people of community that we think are aligned with our values and our passions. And number 5 is actually take action, because there's no point of us having this purpose and we don't actually try and do anything about it. So for example, Dalton, you might be super passionate about your religion, but if you do that while you're at home by yourself, that actually touches nobody. But by getting out there and trying different things out, you know, like you said before, you did the worshiping this weekend, which is fantastic. And then, you know, okay, for next time, how do I just change it up just a little bit to add my own stuff in there? But I think if you do those 5 things there, that's going to be a good way to start and keep you on the journey to find your purpose. And like you said, Isaac, before, it's a journey. There's no destination here. It's just a journey.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts you want to add to that?
Yeah, so reflect on values, passion, interests, skills and strengths, and inspiration. What was number 5?
Take action. Take action. Like actually do the stuff.
Action.
Yeah.
That I was writing them down, so I was wondering.
No worries.
That's worthy to write down. Love that. Yeah, I had like a thought. It's a little bit off the wall. But as we're sitting here, we're talking about nihilism and goals and finding purpose in our lives. I just kind of wanted to give a warning that I've caught myself doing it. Is, you know, today we live in a world full of information. It's constantly just being fed into us, and we see somebody else's views. And I would just say, be cautious about basing your values or your passions or your interests off of other people's views, you know. And big thing is like political. You see politics everywhere. I have no idea what it's like for everybody else in every other country. I would assume New Zealand is pretty similar. Politics is everywhere. Be careful of taking that, what do they call it, anecdotal data from a different location and then trying to apply it to your location. I would say focus on the people around you. There's not always one answer that fixes all. You know, if you want to do something great and big, and you're trying to find your purpose and your meaning to life, focus on what is present right in front of you. And so that was kind of my thought as I was listening to you there. So
Yeah. One of you had mentioned, Prajesh, the about the artist copying and stuff. Do you recommend people trying to find role models or maybe a group of role models to kind of start to ask questions to yourself? They say this, do I believe it? Do you recommend people try to find people to look up to, I guess, in that area?
Yeah, I think it goes back to your values. And if you once you find, because what happens, like Dalton said before, it happens incorrectly. We find the people first before we realize our values. So we just go, oh, just because Isaac and Dalton are going here, therefore I'm friends with them, therefore I should go there. As opposed to going, actually, once I know my values, and okay, Isaac and Dalton doing that there, they can go do that there. That doesn't align with my values. I can still be friends with them, but I can find my inspiration or my people around them. But it doesn't mean, like you said, Dalton, before, it doesn't mean to accept everything willy-nilly. Just because people say things that's correct, you shouldn't be afraid to challenge. But I think what's important is to also find people that are the opposite of you. Because I think if we just live in our echo chambers of everything that we think is right, we're never ever going to think about what else is wrong. Oh, sorry, I used the word wrong. Sorry. What else is not what we think about? So it's easy for us to say everything is hunky dory because all that we see is hunky dory, but we never have someone to challenge that perception there. And it's only when we get challenged that we can stand up to a true conviction. So yes, hang around people that are similar minded and find those groups there, but also don't be afraid to put your foot into the camp and go, wait a minute, these people here don't have the same values. Why? I always think about this, when I was growing up, that, we have these amazingly beautiful cultural beliefs, but if you don't do this, then you're a bad person. And I was like, but wait a minute, just because I'm this here, all those other religions don't do that. Does that mean they're bad people? And then when you step into that culture, there you go, or that religion, you go, actually, no, they have a different way of looking at cultures and religion. So I think it's important not to just get stuck in our own echo chamber. And whether it's good or bad, we just got to if we hear the same thing over and over and over again, it becomes true. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's not a good thing.
Yeah. You get that box built around you that you feel like that is only truth. Yeah. Yeah, that's something to think about there. Yeah, it's something that I saw a little clip on Instagram the other day. Someone was like, I like it when people come up and give their opposing view because that doesn't, like it challenges what you believe. So it helps you figure out if you believe it or not. So opposing views, definitely aren't wrong to a degree, but like they're actually beneficial.
Yeah. And sometimes it's important because I think we take things too personally. And if we go, this is not a personal attack on me, but a disagreement with my thinking, it's a little bit different. And I think a lot of if I disagree with Dalton's idea, and if Dalton takes it personally, he's not going to grow from it. He's like, oh, why is British attacking me? As opposed to going, actually, wait a minute, he's talking about my thought process, which is different, right? And I think we all do this, every single one of us, and I'm no saint here. Every one of us gets married to ideas, and we think our way is the right way. And when someone challenges us, if we don't have the awareness to go, they're not challenging. Well, some people do challenge us, but if we go, okay, let's step away. What are they actually challenging? They're challenging this thought process here. But it's awareness, right? It's awareness, and every one of us is human. We all get emotional. We all get passionate about what we believe in, and sometimes we just step away and go, maybe there's something that needs to be changing a little bit here."
Yeah, I like that. It's not an attack on your little box of beliefs. It's an opposing view on the belief itself. That's a really good mindset shift, and I feel like continued implementation of it and people trying to do this will change a lot. You'll learn a lot. if you start to
100%.
view it that way.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have any closing thoughts or anything you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
I'd like to, so I'm going to go tie this back to, you know, that your podcast is called Unrealized Purpose. And I think it's important to remember that everyone, like you said, Isaac, and you said Dalton as well, this is a journey. This is a journey. And don't ever feel that you haven't realized your purpose, because it can be just be as simple as what Dalton said. My purpose for today is to make my beer. That's it. I've done that. Happy days. Cool. Or you might be, my purpose today is to feed 20,000 people who haven't got any food. That's fine. And we're all going to be in a different spectrum, and there's no right or wrong. Okay. Sometimes you have to start by making the bed before you can feed 20,000 people. So your unrealized purpose is actually just making your bed that day. That's where it starts. That's my closing thought.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it. Yeah. It's all a journey, and it builds too. It may be making your bed today, but then 10 years down the road, maybe you're feeding 20,000 people that haven't eaten yet. But you're never going to get to that 20,000 people if you don't start making your bed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a bed on the cover photo for the YouTube video. How about you, Dalton?
Like pulling the blanket over.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Man, everything, I love it. You know, you should be willing to be challenged. And that's part of having conversations. That's part of this podcast is, you know, hopefully eventually, or like all of us here pretty much, I think agree 100% with each other. You toss in like one comment that, somebody doesn't agree with, and you've got to be willing to accept that I might be wrong. And so I kind of have something that I say in my head is like, I'm 99.9% sure I'm right, but there's still a chance. So, which really we all kind of feel like that. I think just about a lot of things, is I'm 99.9% right, but I could still be wrong. And so, and I've had a few moments of those in my life, where you're dead set. You're like, oh, this is the right way. And you get to the point and you're like, oh, no, it wasn't. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what conversation and discourse is all about. And we've got to be willing to hold our tongue and listen to one another and use different plans. So that's all I got.
Great.
Love that. Yeah, that's a good way to wrap up the show here. But yeah, I'll link up Prajesh's Instagram in the show notes for the podcast episode. If you guys have any questions, shoot him a DM, or let him know what you're thinking, because I feel like he answered a lot of really, really good questions here.
No, awesome.
All right.
This is a great platform. For our listeners out there, I'm just going to do a last plug here. If you haven't learned anything today, listen to the podcast again, because there's lots of stuff in here. So you got to listen again. Don't rush through life. Listen.
Love
Thank
that.
you, Prajesh.
Right. Take care, everybody.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.